Meanwhile, this morning, Garrett, there's some major news about Elon Musk's White House initiative, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
DOGE is done.
Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS.
They called it efficiency. They called it trimming the fat. They called it saving taxpayer money. They gave it an acronym and a logo and a billionaire with a smile. And then they published the list. Not the list of what was saved, the list of what was cut, what was ended, what was quietly eliminated, while the word efficiency was repeated loudly enough to cover the sound of things disappearing. Jimmy Kimmel, read that list. And what happened in that studio was not comedy. Which country are you watching this from right now? Drop it in the comments, because the programs on this list don't just affect Americans. They funded research, partnerships, and aid that reached dozens of countries when they disappeared. The silence crossed borders. The segment opened the way the most devastating Kimmel segments always open. Without a joke, no band warm-up, no audience prompt. He walked to his desk holding a stack of printed pages. He didn't smile, he didn't perform. He held up the pages and said he wanted to read something. He said, "These are real programs, with real budgets, serving real people that were funded last year and are not funded this year. Every one of them was eliminated or gutted under DOGE. This is narrative analysis built around publicly available federal budget data, officially announced program eliminations, and financial disclosures that are documented in government records and reported by every major outlet. Every number is real," he started reading. Item 1, Pediatric Cancer Research Grants through the National Institutes of Health. Funding reduced by 68%. Programs that were developing treatments for children with leukemia, brain tumors, and rare genetic cancers cut. Not delayed, cut. The researchers were told to stop. Kimmel set the page down, picked up the next. Item 2. Meals on Wheels. Funding for homebound veterans eliminated. Not reduced, eliminated. Veterans who served this country, who cannot leave their homes, who relied on a daily meal delivered by a volunteer, told that the program no longer exists. The audience was already quiet. But it was a different kind of quiet than the previous segments. This wasn't the silence of anticipation. It was the silence of people hearing something they hadn't been told. Item 3. Head Start centers in rural communities. 47 locations closed. Programs that provided early childhood education to families who had no other option shut down. Not consolidated, not restructured, shut down. The children were sent home. Item 4. School lunch programs in 12 states. Funding reduced to a level that administrators publicly said made continuation impossible. Children who ate their only reliable meal at school, now in districts that cannot guarantee they will be fed. Item 5. Federal grants for domestic violence shelters, cut by 40%. Shelters that were already operating beyond capacity, now told to operate with less than half the support. Kimmel paused after item 5. He didn't editorialize. He didn't add a punchline. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes, the gesture of a man who is tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. If you are watching this and you want to see more moments where the numbers tell the story louder than any commentary ever could, subscribe and hit that like button, because item 6 is the one that made the studio go completely still. Item 6. Funding for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline reduced the phone number that Americans in their darkest moment call when they have nowhere else to turn, now operating with fewer counselors, longer wait times, and reduced hours in multiple states. Kimmel set the paper down. He didn't pick up the next page. He looked into the camera and for several seconds said nothing. The studio was so quiet the audience could hear the paper settling on the desk. Then he said, "That is 6. There are more." He held up the remaining pages, a thick stack, and said, "I could read these for the rest of the show, and I wouldn't finish." He set the stack down, and he delivered the line that made the clip travel. He said, "Now let me read one more number." He picked up a single page, separate from the stack. He said, "During the same period that these programs were cut, Elon Musk's net worth increased by $47 billion. He didn't say it with anger. He didn't say it with sarcasm. He said it the way you read a receipt, flatly, factually. The way numbers sound when you stop decorating them and just let them exist next to each other. Children's cancer research, cut. A billionaire's net worth, up $47 billion. Veterans' meals, eliminated. $47 billion. Suicide hotline, reduced $47 billion. The audience made a sound, but it wasn't laughter and it wasn't applause. It was the low, involuntary exhale of people confronting a number so large placed next to losses, so personal that the brain short circuits trying to hold both at the same time, Kimmel said. They called it efficiency. He paused. They called it trimming the fat. Another pause. Then he said, I just read you the fat. It was children with cancer. It was veterans who can't leave their homes. It was a phone line for people who wanted to die. He looked at the camera one final time, and the person who decided it was fat made $47 billion while it was being cut. The studio didn't erupt. It sat in the heavy, motionless, inescapable stillness of a room full of people who just heard something that cannot be argued with, because arguments require two sides, and a list of cuts next to a billionaire's profit margin only has one. Trump posted the next morning. He called DOGE a success. He said the savings were tremendous. He called Kimmel's show failing. He didn't address the list. He didn't name a single program. He didn't mention the children, the veterans, or the crisis line. And that absence, the gap between what was cut and what was said about the cutting, told the same story the list told, just quieter. Subscribe to the narrative brief and turn on notifications. He read the list. The list did the rest. We make sure the numbers don't disappear.